History shows again and again how nature points out the folly of man. Truer words have never been spoken. And if you've seen my latest episode of That's Just It, you know I'm a big Godzilla fan. Having seen King of the Monsters in the theater fairly recently, I decided that it was time to delve back into my Godzilla collection and try to pick one out to review. And for some reason, I kept coming back to 2016's Shin Godzilla, which is a masterpiece. So, let's talk about it. Shin Godzilla was released in 2016 and is the first Toho produced Godzilla film since 2004's Godzilla Final Wars, which is honestly really sad. We had to wait 12 years for another Japanese Godzilla film, but oh boy was it worth the wait. The film follows Japanese parliament as they deal with the coming of a monster, which mutates and becomes stronger as the film progresses. From there, the film follows a cabinet minister as he devises a plan to defeat the monster, dubbed Gojira, before the American forces can drop a nuke on it. Shin Godzilla, for starters, is a wonderful film. If I ever had to compile a list of my favorite Godzilla films, this would be top 5, easy. The film is rife with monster action, tons of destruction, as well as some political satire. It has it all, and it takes itself very seriously. Plot-wise, it's nothing special. There's something alive in the oceans outside Japan, and it comes ashore, causing destruction as it goes. In between all this, we have the human characters all deliberating about what needs to be done regarding the monster. These scenes with the human characters talking can get kind of long-winded, but the editing is quick, cutting from one situation to the next, so at least it moves along at a decent pace. The movie really gets started when Godzilla himself shows up in his final form, and the film delves into his origins. From there, the destruction is amped up, and we're shown the extent of Godzilla's abilities and how the government plans to stop him. I'll be honest in admitting that I don't really have many critical things to say about the film, so I'm just going to talk about the things I like the most. The characters were all well written and interesting, although I'll be honest in admitting that I don't recall most of their names, even after repeat viewings. They're mentioned, I know this, but they mention them so quickly that I often miss them. The writing has a fair bit of political satire, though, which I thought was hilarious. The writers skewered the Japanese government using Godzilla as a metaphor for the Fukushima disaster and their delayed response in dealing with it. Furthermore, there's some generational humor as well. The majority of the cast seems to fit into the millennial age range, and they're all chomping at the bit to take care of the problem, often losing their patience with their elders. Gen Xers comprise the parliament, and they're all fairly competent but hesitant to do what needs to be done. Finally, there's a baby boomer character who can make decisions fairly quickly but whines about how hard his job is when his meal goes soggy. Whether intentional or not, I think that's pretty funny. Well, the most important thing about any Godzilla film is, well, Godzilla himself. Um, he's different from previous versions, which I think is a good thing, and this is the first Godzilla film in the franchise's history that isn't a direct sequel to the 1954 classic. Godzilla 1954, as I've mentioned in reviews from the Cinescape Movie Reviews Facebook page, was focused on the destruction caused by nuclear warfare, with the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki being the catalysts for the monster's mutation into Godzilla, and was the reason why he hated humanity. He is in pain, constantly, and he takes his anger out on humanity as they are the cause of his suffering. Shin Godzilla is the first film not to do that. Instead, Shin Godzilla shows that humanity is dumping nuclear waste into the ocean, and that is the cause of his mutation. It's shown that the monster has been feeding on it, and that brings about the events in the film. It's a complete reboot to the lore of Godzilla, updating it for the first time in the entire franchise's history, and honestly, it's not a bad idea. The reason why Godzilla is such an enduring character is because he's a metaphor for the destruction we cause our own planet with our extensive use of nuclear weapons, or in this case, carelessly disposing of nuclear waste. This updates it for modern audiences while still holding true to what makes the character important. Now, in this film, Godzilla also looks very different from previous versions of the character. In all of the other movies, really, he's had a very reptilian look with some dinosaur aspects, I find, with the dorsal fins and whatnot. But this is completely different. In this, his skin is melted away in some spots, particularly along his neck, and he looks burned and charred in other spots. He actually looks like a victim of nuclear radiation, which is harrowing and horrifying, but it lends itself to the film in a positive way, I think. My only gripe is that Godzilla isn't an actor in a suit. Don't get me wrong, the CGI elements are impressive, although part of the charm of the older films is an actor in a suit trashing a city of miniatures. I knew Godzilla would be CGI this time around, and he looked different, so I won't complain too much. The legendary Godzilla looks great being completely CGI, and so does this one. I mean, the only CGI Godzilla that looks awful is from the 1998 Roland Emmerich film, but I'll talk about that another day. In addition to getting the look of Godzilla right, they also got everything else right. The Godzilla roar from 1954 is used in all of its glory, and the original 1954 musical score is used as well, in addition to some great original music. Long story short, Shin Godzilla is an outstanding film. It's a modern update on a classic tale, and in 2019, with reboots and remakes everywhere, it's one that actually works. More importantly, it means that Toho is making these films again. Um, Even though it's been a while, they brought the King of the Monsters out of retirement to stomp his way across our big screens once again. This is Cinescape, signing off.